Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program will begin in 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, our program will now begin. Please rise and welcome for the singing of the national anthem, Samantha Rios.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we'd watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please welcome, from Park Avenue Synagogue in Manhattan, Cantor Shira Lissick for the singing of Hatikvah.
Kol od balev av penima, nefesh Yehudi homia, ulfate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. Od lovda tikvatenu, hatikva bachnot alpayim, liot חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, בארץ ציון ירושלים.
Us down, then we get up again. We're not stopping what we started. We're not stopping what we started. We're not stopping what we started. We're not stopping what we started.
Please welcome AIPAC President Lillian Pincus.
Wow. Good morning and welcome to the 2017 AIPAC Policy Conference. Just look around this hall. Take a moment. Gathered here are Americans of every faith, race, and culture, religious leaders and veterans, Democrats, Republicans, independents. And I am thrilled to see so many young people here, including the nearly 4,000 students who are with us. At our conference are diplomats and pro-Israel activists from 54 countries. And in particular, I want to welcome the many dignitaries who are joining us from Israel. Also, please join me in welcoming the 7,000 delegates who are attending their very first policy conference. Welcome, welcome, welcome. In this enormous room are pro-Israel Americans who have come together with purpose, 18,000 strong. There's a lot to celebrate this morning, But it's also evident that we gather amid challenging and divisive times. Our nation is embroiled in difficult debates, touching on who we are, what we believe, and what values we prioritize. Americans across the country are retreating to ideological corners. Too often we're divided into us versus them, Democrat versus Republican. Goals are served by creating division, highlighting differences to score political points and advance partisan agendas. My friends, support for Israel is not immune to these divisive efforts. Elements on each side of the aisle are trying to fracture our movement, to advance their own agenda. Yet we've come together to take a declarative and defining stance. We will not allow, frankly, we cannot allow support for Israel to fall victim to the same divisiveness that overwhelms nearly every other political issue. We will work harder than ever before to hold the ideological center, preserving support for the Jewish state as a bipartisan cause both parties champion. And we will continue to be the home for all Americans from across the political spectrum who believe that the U.S.-Israel relationship is worth protecting. The home for all Americans from across the political spectrum who believe that the people of Israel should be free to determine their own fate and future. The home for all Americans from across the political spectrum who believe that keeping Israel safe and the United States secure remains a core American value that must be preserved and must be strengthened from generation to generation. We have come together because we know the stakes are high. America and Israel face profound challenges and must confront them together. Iran is emboldened. ISIS is on Israel's borders. Hezbollah and Hamas, they're arming for war. And the chaos of the Middle East shows no signs of calming down. And yet, even while we confront these challenges, we must also help America and Israel advance exciting new opportunities. Just an example, cooperation and innovation in cybersecurity. It can redefine the 21st century. Partnering to meet the global needs for water, food, and energy can impact billions of lives around the world. Advancing the cause of peace between Israel and her neighbors can change how generations of children learn and thrive together. My friends, truly, there is no limit to what we can achieve when we come together. Our shared determination to fight for this cause speaks more about who we are than any partisan label ever will. We have overcome what divides us to remain united as a movement. And that is the difference between strength and weakness, effectiveness and irrelevance, legacy and regret. It's our ability to rise above and come together around our one mission that makes AIPAC a home for Michael White, a rabbi and political activist from New York, a home for pro-Israel Christian activist Denise Bubeck from Iowa, a home for Olga Miranda, a national labor leader from California, and a home for U.S. Army veteran Rufus Montgomery from Georgia. What emerges from our many voices is a movement that will continue to be a force to be reckoned with, a movement that is strong and growing stronger, a movement that is the example for how to make progress in America today. I ask you to think about this. Just 7 years ago, the Democrats held the House, the Senate, and the White House. Today, the Republicans do. No one in this country can predict which way the partisan winds will blow. The only way to be effective today and over time is to build relationships with each and every elected leader. It is simply the case that for each of us to be effective, we need pro-Israel activists on both sides of the aisle. If we want to protect the U.S.-Israel relationship long-term, Democrats need Republicans, and Republicans need Democrats. Let us follow the example set by leaders here with us today, like Alex Smith and Marv McCord. Alex is the national chairwoman of the College Republicans, and Marv is the national president of College Democrats. I can assure you, they don't agree on everything. But through AIPAC, they found common ground on the issue of Israel and how they could work together to strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. Shortly after the election this fall, Alex and Marv led a bipartisan trip to Israel with AIPAC for student leaders from their respective organizations. They experienced Israel together. They debated with each other. They learned from each other. And they left determined to work together to keep Israel strong and America secure. Alex and Marv, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your example. At AIPAC, we encourage you, the Democrat, to be a proud pro-Israel Democrat. We encourage you, the Republican, to be a proud pro-Israel Republican. Because if we extend an open hand and embrace a fellow pro-Israel activist on the other side of the aisle, we will emerge stronger. When we acknowledge our differences while respecting each other's commitment to this mission, we're more effective in keeping Israel secure. We invite elected leaders into our home to build a relationship, to reinforce policies, and to appreciate their willingness to reach across the aisle to help keep Israel secure. Even when we disagree with a speaker or fellow activist on issues beyond the U.S.-Israel relationship, it is incumbent on us to recognize the positions they take that we do support. Crossing party lines to appreciate a speaker's pro-Israel position may be hard, but it's necessary. Keeping Israel secure long-term requires us to ensure that every pro-Israel voice is strong, effective, and valued. In my role as AIPAC president, I have had the honor of representing our movement in meetings with foreign leaders and in Washington. I have carried our message to Democrats and Republicans, to prime ministers and to kings. And each time I do, I walk away with immense pride. I am proud of the organization we have built together. I am proud that the AIPAC name carries with it the passion of tens of thousands of pro-Israel Americans. I am proud that we have organized as a community of diverse voices who believe in one mission. And I am proud that we have chosen to act together rather than acquiesce to partisanship. As I said earlier, in the days and years ahead, Israel is likely to be confronted with profound challenges. How America stands by its ally in the Middle East, that will be determined by our strength as a movement. And have no doubt, we will continue to be tested, pushed, and challenged. But as my mother used to say, you make your own luck. Our willingness to fight for what we hold dear, to persevere in the face of challenge, to overcome those who try to divide us, that will determine our success. It's in our hands. The security of Israel and the U.S.-Israel relationship is too important to risk. Confronting these challenges ahead is our responsibility, and it will be our legacy. In the last year, I've traveled to a number of communities, and throughout the country, many of you have shared common sentiments with me. You've said that for all the ways you have helped make AIPAC better, your AIPAC involvement has made you better. You've said that you wanted to be involved in something that mattered. You've said that you wanted to set an example for your children and grandchildren, or for your parents and grandparents. You've said that because of AIPAC, you found your voice, and that because of AIPAC, you value the voices of others, different from your own, yet common in their desire and commitment to strengthen the United States and Israel. Serving as AIPAC president continues to be the honor of a lifetime. I would like to recognize my husband, John, and my entire family who are partners in this important work with me. I love you guys. Love you guys. 2 years ago, my predecessor, Robert Cohen, announced that I had been chosen AIPAC president-elect. Today, it is my honor to announce that the AIPAC Board of Directors has chosen a new president-elect to begin his tenure as our leader at next year's policy conference. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Mort Friedman of New Jersey. Mort, congratulations on this incredibly well-deserved honor. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that there have been many books and articles written about us, about AIPAC. Authors write about our model for effective political advocacy. They write about our organization and strategy. And they write about how a group of Americans from all 50 states builds relationships with elected leaders. Sometimes the stories they write are genuine in their praise. Other times, not so much. But nevertheless, they write about us. I am determined that those same authors will need to add a chapter, that they will look at us, at our movement coming together, at arguably one of the most tense times in American political history, and they will say that we joined forces for one mission. Let them write that at a time when the Middle East is on fire, when Iran and its proxies are feeling emboldened, threatening the safety of the people and the land that we love, we did not allow anything to stand in the way of our determination. Let them write that we were effective, focused, and unwavering in our commitment, not because it was easy to do, but because as men and women who love America and Israel, there is no other choice. Let them write that when the stakes were high, when there was a need for Americans from all political stripes to come together to keep Israel strong, you came to Washington and made a difference. And let them write that we as an organization proved that when Americans embrace each other's differences, we can and we will achieve great things together. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome Israeli Ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer.
Thank you. Good morning, AIPAC. A very special good morning to everyone here from my native state of Florida. That's a big delegation. And a very, very special good morning to the 4,000 students who are here. Now, I'm pretty impressed. When I was a student, you couldn't have paid me to wake up early on a Sunday morning to listen to anyone speak. 19,000 people is also pretty impressive. That's actually the same number of people who watched Gonzaga and Oregon make it to the Final Four last night. I see there's a delegation from Washington and Oregon here as well. But you're all here because you know, as I do, that the AIPAC Policy Conference is the real place for March Madness. I mean, think about it. We each have to fill out a bracket. There's a lot of breakout sessions happening at the same time. You got to pick and choose what to watch. And in the next 48 hours, that's what you call missing a page to your speech. That's part of March Madness. We're going to pick and choose what to watch, and then, of course, there are the big speeches that bring everyone together. In the next 48 hours, we'll hear from a champion of the remarkable friendship between Israel and the United States, Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. We'll hear from a true friend of Israel who stands for what is right time after time, no matter how difficult that stand is, Senator Robert Menendez. We'll hear from a woman who has finally brought some moral clarity to the United Nations, Ambassador Nikki Haley. Israel believes that armed with that moral clarity, we can finally get serious about the UN's anti-Israel bias and crack the UN's automatic anti-Israel majorities once and for all. Tonight, we'll also hear from a man about whom I can honestly say that the Jewish people and the Jewish state have no better friend, Vice President Mike Pence. And of course, tomorrow, live from Jerusalem, we'll hear from a man I am proud to serve, a man who has the great privilege and awesome responsibility of leading the one and only Jewish state, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ladies and gentlemen, as opposed to that other less exciting March Madness, the greatest thing about AIPAC's policy conference is that we are all on the same team. Americans and Israelis, Democrats and Republicans, Likud and Labor and the other parties across the Israeli political spectrum, our team is committed to making the U.S.-Israel alliance stronger than ever. That is why I am honored to be here this morning to represent the people of Israel and to convey a simple message. Thank you. Thank you to Lillian Pincus, to Howard Core, to AIPAC's leadership, and to all of you who work tirelessly for AIPAC to ensure that not only is the U.S.-Israel relationship strong, but that it also brings Americans together, no matter their party, no matter their background, no matter their faith. I know that today, bringing people together is harder than ever. That is why AIPAC's work is more important than ever, and that is why, frankly, Israel's gratitude is greater than ever. I also want to thank all of you who came from across the country to be here today. Thank you for caring enough and for being motivated enough to come here and learn about the challenges and opportunities facing Israel. And to thank you personally for working to strengthen the alliance between America and Israel. And ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the great challenges facing Israel and the United States, for the first time in many years, perhaps even many decades, there is no daylight between our two governments. Both our governments recognize that foremost among those challenges remains Iran. We both recognize that the nuclear deal does not block Iran's path to a bomb, and that Iran's appetite for aggression and terror has only grown since that deal was signed and since sanctions were removed. We also both recognize that the worst outcome that could emerge from the horrific carnage in Syria would be to effectively cede parts of Syria to Iran and Hezbollah. And we both appreciate that the rising tide of militant Islam, which has engulfed the Middle East, has also enabled a rare moment of opportunity to bring Israel and many in the Arab world closer together. In working together to thwart common dangers, there is a real prospect of building a genuine path towards reconciliation in the region, a path not based on empty hopes and dangerous illusions, but a path based on a clear-eyed understanding of shared threats, as well as a common desire for a safer, more prosperous, and more peaceful future. Ladies and gentlemen, during the visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu to Washington last month, it was clear that there was a meeting of the minds between our two governments on the great strategic challenge facing us. And that has made me even more confident that our alliance will get considerably stronger in the years ahead. You see the strength of that alliance every day. You see it when military assistance to Israel is fully funded at a time of great budget cuts. And you see it when America finally finds its moral voice in defending Israel at the UN. You see it. You see it when an Israeli pilot climbs into the cockpit of an F-35, and when the Iron Dome, David Sling, and Aero systems shoot down incoming missiles. And you see it when our intelligence cooperation foils dozens of terror attacks across the globe, and when our cyber cooperation protects people and critical infrastructure in both countries. You see it when Israeli companies are conserving water and harnessing solar power in places across America, and when U.S. companies invest billions of dollars in Israeli technology that is transforming how we live. And you see it perhaps most of all in our rambunctious democracies, in our free-spirited debate, in our commitment to the rule of law and to the rights of all. Our remarkable alliance is anchored in shared values, buttressed by shared interests, and driven by a shared destiny. But this alliance has also been fortified and nurtured for decades by AIPAC and by people just like you. Yet I am confident that even better days are still ahead. And part of my confidence comes from all of you. You stand 19,000 strong and proud in this hall. But I know that you represent so many millions of Americans who stand strongly and proudly behind Israel. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting Israel. And thank you for the work you do, you personally do, to make the U.S.-Israel alliance greater than ever. The ball is tipped. For those basketball fans out there, the ball is tipped. Here you are. Enjoy the conference.
You know, people every time ask me, how would you like to be remembered in history? I tell them that my greatest wish to be remembered, that I was given the privilege to save the life of one child. That would satisfy me more than anything else.
أحكي؟ أنا اسمي يوسف، عمري 12 سنة، ساكن في حلحون. أنا وأخوتي عددهم 8، أنا الوسط بيناتهم، ساكنين أنا وأمي وأبوي ببيت واحد وعايشين في حلحون. أنا كنت صغير كان عندي مشكلة في تبديل الشرايين القلب، وما كنتش أعرف عشان هذا الإشي، وتكبرت أمي وأبوي حكوا لي عن هذا الإشي، قالوا لي إنه بيرس هو اللي ساعدني.
Shimon Peres founded the Peres Center for Peace 20 years ago. His reason for building this was to try to find ways to have a coexistence inside Israel and also with Israel and its neighbors. Saving Children program is about saving thousands upon thousands of children who need our help. Israel knows how to do it. We have the know-how. We have the doctors who can do it. We have the training. We have everything in order to save lives.
כל יום במשרד פה במרכז פרס זה יום שלא צפוי. זה פרויקט שמפנה חולים, בעיקר ילדים, לטיפול בבתי חולים בארץ, כאשר לא ניתן לטפל בהם באזור מגוריהם.
زوجتي ولدت يوسف بعد 3 أيام كان عند الولد مريض شوي، صار يعطي لون على أسود. احنا كنا اخذناه عصينا وسوينا له تصوير، وجد عنده مشكله. كنا متنكدين كثير وكان عندنا يعني احباط، كنا باحباط.
Eli, what would be your possibilities to transfer him and when?
الطبيب اتصل بمركز بيرس، طبعا تقبل الموضوع. كان نايم يوسف بالمستشفى. هلا سوينا تحويله وكل شيء تمام، حملناه بالمستشفى، عملوا له اللازم، وكملنا به بالطريق على هداسه، وهناك بهداسه ادخلوه فوريا، ادخلوه على العنايه المكثفه. وبعديها يومين ثلاثه عملوا له عمليه.
תמיד בפעם הראשונה משפחות מרגישים כזה פחד, איך התייחסו אליהם, איך יטפלו בהם. תמיד יש את הפחד הזה ויש את כאילו החששות, כי רוב המקרים הם פעם ראשונה יוצאים לשטח ישראל ופעם ראשונה הם פוגשים ישראלים.
This work that we're doing here and the Paris Center for Peace is critical for Israel, because when we work upon coexistence, first of all, we show ourselves in our hearts that we can do the right thing, and I believe that it is a true message that we can spread all over the world.
دكتور طمنا انه هذا الطفل راح يعيش، يعني يمارس حياته الطبيعيه زيه زي اي طفل بالعالم. فطمنا، انبسطنا كثير كثير، حسينا انه صار عندنا ولد جديد.
Yusuf is one of the brilliant case of a boy who came in dire straits. The Paris Center for Peace saved his life. His family is still in touch with the Paris Center for Peace, working with us, helping us. They're true ambassadors for Israel.
Children should be helped to grow up and not to lose the chance for their life. This young, lovely boy was operated when he was 1 month's time. To save a child is not good for publicity. To save a child is good for your relations with the Lord in heaven and with yourself.
Please welcome Youssef Karaja and chairman of the Perez Center for Peace and Innovation, Chemi Perez.
Hello, AIPAC. لصديقي السيد بيرس، بالنسبة لي يرجى مواصلة العمل من أجل السلام. شكرا.
Youssef says, for his friend Mr. Peres and for himself, please continue to work for peace. I've always been proud to be my father's son, and today, even more. Thank you. He was one of Israel's founding fathers, crucial in developing its defense industry. And once Israel was secure, he devoted his life to building peace. He believed peace can be achieved through innovation, through medicine and education, and importantly, believed that technology and science must be harnessed for tikkun olam. I'm proud to stand next to Youssef and share this moment with our AIPAC family. My father hoped to stand here today despite his absence, I know we can feel him here with us this morning. As my father used to say, let us dream big. Let us shape a better future. I invite you to join hands with him and with us. Thank you. That's it.
Please welcome head of the IDF's medical department, Colonel Dr. Elon Glassberg.
An American general who is touring Israel a few years ago asked me why I'm in the military, why I chose to wear green. My answer was simple, because of what happens on the other side of that fence. What happens on the other side, she asks. I explained that if you go up north and you stand at the Golan, stand at the border, there's a 2 millimeter, 1/8 of an inch fence that separates Israel from what was once Syria. On the other side of that fence, there's a completely different world, completely different life. There, on the other side of the fence, if I lived there, my daughter would have to stop school by second grade, because girls should not be educated. On that side of the fence, if I lived there, my son would have become a hunter or be hunted. I live on the side of the fence where we celebrate life, and it is my job to protect that life. As a Northern Command surgeon, I was the doctor responsible for caring for IDF soldiers stationed at Israel's northern border. For the last 4 years, the lives I worked to protect have been extended to include men, women, and children, Syrians from the other side, who have become the victims of an internal, vicious, and seemingly endless war. It was February 16th, 2013 when we got the first call. 7 Syrians arrived at the fence. They were badly wounded and needed immediate medical attention. A decision needed to be made. IDF medical teams treated the injured, lifted them into ambulances, and brought them to the trauma centers in the north of Israel. This was only the beginning. The word spread rapidly and quietly among the Syrians, and it became known that if help is needed, it can be found. Just go to the fence. To date, we have treated more than 3,000 Syrians injured in the country's civil war. Teams of young IDF medics patrol the fence night after night, shaking in the cold, working in the dark, pulling people to safety. The Syrian risks their lives coming to us, so they do it under the cover of the darkness. We are proud of what we do, but I worry that someday someone will try to harm our crews while they're saving lives of those who've been taught for generations that we are their enemy. We are not their enemy. We are their ambulance drivers, their surgeons, their medics, their nurses, their pharmacists, their social workers. I had the complex job of managing this operation. Who goes to which hospital? Who needs to be transferred by helicopter? Who can we help? And who is beyond our help? Even with 2 decades worth of professional training and experience on my side, the choices are complicated. Like a very small blanket being pulled in many directions, quite often you have to be creative, flexible, and willing to improvise. By now, we've gotten used to coordinating between the military and civilian hospitals. We've gotten used to finding clean clothes and cutting off the tags, so when they go back home, nobody will ever know they've been to Israel. We've gotten used to the constant flow of patients to our nation's door, but there are some things you can never get used to. One night, 26 people came to the fence. Among them, there were two brothers, aged 5 and 7, accompanied by the grandmother. They were at a hospital in Syria, treated for injuries they had already sustained from an earlier airstrike when the hospital was bombed. The boys suffered severe burns. Over 60% of their tiny bodies were burnt. I climbed into a helicopter with the boys and the grandmother. Mid-flight, the youngest crashed. I worked on him, regaining his heartbeat and trying to calm the grandmother. Before landing at the hospital, I showed her the lights of Tel Aviv. She cried. It's said that surgeons have no hearts, but I have to tell you that working on these cases is really heartbreaking. The toughest cases I will not talk about. Nobody thought the stream of Syrian patients would continue, but they keep coming, even tonight. And these days, more and more of these patients are women and children. I see this as a sign of trust. We do what we do freely and with all our hearts because it's within our ability. As an Israeli, I feel it's our duty to help whomever we can. We help because it's quite simply the right thing to do. Because we cannot turn our backs on people who are in need. Because at the end of the day, we all want health and security, peace and quiet on every side of that fence. Thank you very much.
Please welcome senior Washington correspondent for I-24 News, Dan Raviv.
Good morning, everyone. Few people have more experience working on issues surrounding the Middle East than our next guest. It's the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair. Oh, wait till he comes out. As Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, he was a staunch supporter of Israel, and then he served as the special envoy of the Quartet, we'll explain, where he worked tirelessly for promoting peace between Israel and the Palestinians. And today he continues to look for new ways to promote peace and understanding between Arabs and Israelis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Tony Blair.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first, welcome, of course, and thank you for coming to the AIPAC Policy Conference. As a reminder to everyone, Tony Blair was the longest-serving British Prime Minister in modern times, 10 years. Wow. That was 1997 to 2007. I know I'm tempted to say, who's from the UK? And I know some of you are. A firm ally of the United States, Mr. Blair was, after the shock of 9/11. And we thank you very much for your support for the United States at that time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And now we express our solidarity with Britain after the shocking attack on the Houses of Parliament this past Wednesday. We stand with you.
Thank you.
Now, from 2007 to 2015, you were the Quartet representative. That's not a musical thing. I believe that you were the person on the scene exploring Israeli-Palestinian peace possibilities for the Quartet, which is the United Nations, the European Union, the United States, and Russia. Now, among other things, you're still trying to help the world through a nonprofit company, the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. So that's about right. We brought you up to date. Okay, as a newsman, I was with CBS for years and years, including in the London Bureau and covering the Middle East, now with I-24 News. We keep up with what you're trying to do. You're trying to forge good or useful relations between Israel and Arab nations. We're noticing that. Now, is that bearing fruit? How much can you reveal about that effort? How's it going?
Well, first of all, Dan, thank you very much, and it's great to be here at this extraordinary gathering of AIPAC, and I'd like to congratulate AIPAC on the great work it does for Israeli-American relations. This is a huge passion of mine. When I go back to Israel the week after next, it will be my 178th visit since leaving office. So, I mean, it's not a hardship posting, by the way, because it's a great country and I've come to love it very much. So essentially what I think is that we're not going to reach peace in the old way. We need a new way forward. And that, to me, is based on three basic principles. The first is that the security of the State of Israel is not just an Israeli interest or indeed an American interest. It is a global interest for the security of all the nations of the world. Secondly, it requires, however, a different approach to reach peace between Israelis and Palestinians. And the key to that approach, in my view today, lies in the relationship with the region. Today, there are common strategic interests and common objectives that are shared between Israel and the Arab nations. And what I work on is based on this fundamental belief that the key to transforming the Middle East, and therefore to a more peaceful world, is to have a relationship between Israelis and Arabs which can be open, above the table, acknowledged, in which Israel's right to exist is accepted, in which Israel works closely with Arab states, and in which two states for two peoples can be pursued in a way that guarantees Israel's security.
All right, that's a goal. But how is it going? What progress can you reveal to us?
Here's the thing that I think is fascinating. Look, sometimes out of chaos can come opportunity. And the truth is, the whole of this region, the best way of looking at it, in my view, is to say that the region is essentially engaged in a transition and a struggle for two essential things. Religiously tolerant societies, because today religious intolerance or politics based on a warped view of religion is only destructive. And secondly, rule-based economies. In other words, places where if you work hard and do well and play by the rules, you can achieve success. That is the struggle that's going on all over the Middle East. The opposition to it comes from Shia extremism promoted by Iran, Sunni extremism from the Muslim Brotherhood all the way through to ISIS and other groups. And the truth is today, the Arab nations have a common interest in Israel in fighting this extremism. So what I would like to see is a new alliance in the Middle East, a strategic partnership with the leadership of the United States of America, in which we say, this is what the battle for the Middle East is about. It's a battle against extremism, in favor of mutual respect across boundaries of race and faith and culture. And if we want the Middle East to succeed, we need to base this new partnership not just on interests, but on basic human values of dignity, respect, and tolerance for all.
And how is it going? I'm pressing you to reveal whether there's true progress.
I think it is going well, actually. I think there is every possibility now. Of course, there are security relationships in the Middle East, but I want this to be more than about security. You know, of course the security is important, but I tell you what else is important. The economy is important. You know, if you think what would happen today in the Middle East if Israel was in a position economically to cooperate with its Arab neighbors, it would be massive. You know, huge benefits to both groups. I think we need cooperation in civic society as well, so that people from Israel and people in the Arab nations are mixing together. Now,
but is it happening, Mr. Blair?
It's happening, but it needs to happen much more. And the key to that is you cannot get this new relationship unless the Palestinian issue is managed and dealt with and put at least on a path to resolution.
Well, you're an expert on that, too. Recently, an IRA leader, a man of violence, Martin McGuinness, died. And you were quoted as saying that what made McGuinness such a formidable foe, or as you would have said, formidable foe, also made him a formidable peacemaker. So, do the Palestinians have leaders like that? Or is there an absence or vacuum of leadership, and that's a hindrance to peace efforts?
Well, I think we do need to see how we encourage a new generation of leaders. The Palestinians I work with in different parts of Palestinian society, I think, do have a genuine desire for peace, but we're going to have to create, I think, a new set of circumstances. In other words, up to now, people have thought, if you do a peace deal, then the circumstances will change. I think it's the other way around. I think we need to change the context for peacemaking, and then we're better able to make peace.
Now, you mentioned that you're going to Israel again soon, and nearly 200 trips. So obviously your efforts to be involved haven't stopped, but why all the trips to Israel?
Because obviously one part of this, and by the way, I'm also in the rest of the region once or twice a month. One part of this is, and I tend to operate under the radar as much as, obviously this is not under the radar.
Except for this.
This is rather above the radar. But it's all about trying to find a common way forward. And, that opportunity is so, I can see it there at the moment. And, I think as Ron Dermer was saying when he addressed you earlier, there is a changing mood. And, when you look around the region today, you can feel this change happening, even amidst the chaos. Mm-hmm. But just to be very clear with you, in my view, in the end, the key is to be able to get an open relationship between Israelis and Arabs, and that will have to come through, as I think the Israeli government accept, through a process of engaging on the Palestinian issue also.
Now, Mr. Blair, you heard Ambassador Dermer earlier, as you mentioned, and when you travel to Israel, the leaders say the looming threat of Iran, which, since the Iran nuclear deal, hasn't stopped its missile program, its aid to terrorist groups. What should the West do about Iran?
Be firm, stand up, and make sure that... look, it's a very simple thing. If you had a benign regime in Iran, all of the problems of the Middle East would be easier to resolve. That's the reality. And what we've got to do, I think, are two things. We've got to push back hard where their power is being abused, in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, in the Gulf, in, for example, the work that they try and do with the Palestinians to pull Palestinian factions away from peace. So you've got to push back hard. But the other thing we've got to do is expose what is actually happening. The fact is, for example, even with a country like Bahrain, it's under a constant attempt from Iran to destabilize it. One of the things we've got to do is get much more out on the front foot here and expose what is actually happening. And then I think you can rally Western opinion to a good and strong position.
All right, we only have about half a minute. Big question. Surveying the region, what gives you cause for hope and optimism?
So the cause for hope and optimism is that I think that despite everything that you read and hear, there is actually a majority in favor of those principles of tolerance and rule-based economies. When I look around the region today, okay, you won't read this in the headlines, but you look at the UAE, for example, which is in every single poll the place where most young Arabs want to be and want to live, right? You look at Abu Dhabi and Dubai, major international cities. You look at even Doha now preparing for the 2022 World Cup. You take, for example, Jordan, a country that is, with all its problems, finding a way forward to the future despite the refugees. You look at the reforms happening in Egypt today, and again, for all the challenges, the Muslim Brotherhood government has been removed, and we've actually got the possibility of peace with Egypt, not just with Israel, but with the region. And, if you want a cause for hope in the region, well, Israel's a cause for hope. So the fact is, this is a place I've got to know well, and I just want to say this, I think it's so important that we get this message across, not just in America, but in Europe as well. The Israel I know, right, is the Israel represented by that film of Shimon Peres and that young boy, Yusuf. It's an Israel that is creative, innovative, dynamic, where its politics are argumentative, full of disputes, full of differences, where, if you have three people in a room, you've got four different opinions. But my God is it vibrant and capable, and what it's created is amazing. Now, at its best, that Israel is a symbol for the region of open-mindedness, tolerance, and willingness to work with others. Now, if we could take that out and move that across the whole region, think of what we could achieve. So that's the cause for hope in the region. That is the Israel that I've come to know and to love and to support, and that's why I'm going to carry on after the 178th visit, making many more.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Blair.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Population of Tishomingo, around 3,200 people. It is really an old-fashioned way of life, a small town in rural Oklahoma, 100 miles from the nearest population center of any size, Dallas or Oklahoma City. And it's a town where everyone knows everyone.
How are you, Jana?
Getting ready for
It's a town with one grocery store and 2 banks and 2 lawyers. I began to have an interest in politics in high school, and soon after I turned 18, my city councilman resigned, and I went to the council and said, would you put me in the seat? And they kind of laughed at me, and I said, if you'll just give me a chance, I won't let you down. And they did. They appointed me to the Tishomingo City Council. I won re-election, and I actually walked across my high school graduation stage as mayor of the city of Tishomingo. In 2011, I'd been practicing law in Tishomingo 10 years. Our congressman announced he was resigning, and Nicole and I began to pray about it and felt that this was the time. And I kid you not, we loaded the minivan with the 2 kids and the dog, and all 5 of us crisscrossed eastern Oklahoma for 13 months. I think we probably drove 70,000 miles. I had an interest in Israel issues, and I had campaigned on a pro-Israel message. The following spring, about 6 months later, I received a call from AIPAC. And I thought, why are they calling? I didn't win the race. And she said, I'm calling to invite you to Israel on an AIEF trip in 2 weeks. I've got 1 seat left, and I need to know if you'll take it. The trip was a turning point in my life. The AIPAC issues, the AIPAC message clicked with me. I was raised in a Christian church that supports Israel. I was raised with a Christian faith to honor Israel, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. So this was really always part of who I was, but I'd really never had an outlet to help. I've explained it to my friends back home. Imagine living in Tishomingo and having Hezbollah 30 miles away where Durant is, or having Hamas 30 miles away where Ardmore is. No people should have to live daily worrying about enemies so close. This was now an avenue that I had to tap into, to carry out my values, to carry out my upbringing, to carry out my faith, and that is to support a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. First thing I did was call my opponent that won, who ultimately became our congressman, and said, I'm here to work with you. In fact, I hosted a fundraiser this year for him. You know, politics really doesn't have to divide us. It can bring us together. I do serve on the AIPAC National Council. We fly into D.C. twice a year. We have meetings, and then we lobby on the Hill. And then I also attend the policy conference every spring, along with my wife. We are hoping Congress will extend that. Oftentimes, we are the only members of AIPAC representing the 2nd Congressional District to our congressman. It is up to the Christians who support a strong U.S.-Israel relationship to show the Oklahoma members of Congress that, yes, there is a large community of Christians that believe in this message, that will spend the money to fly to Washington and will advocate on this issue. I try to encourage my congressman on a number of levels. I encouraged him to take the AIEF trip last year. I called him personally. I texted him and I said, look, I know you're busy, but if you'll trust me on this and take this trip, you'll understand the Middle East better. You'll understand the U.S.-Israel relationship better. It's just a wonderful opportunity to learn. We owe it to do things in life bigger than ourselves. Some people may look at AIPAC and they may look at the issue and they may think, I'm not wealthy enough to be involved. I don't have the right career. But really, you don't have to have anything to be effective in AIPAC other than the attitude and the desire to do it. To profess that we believe it is not enough. I think our actions should show it. I think our pocketbook should show it. What a wonderful opportunity that AIPAC gives us to make an impact on something bigger than ourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dustin Rowe.
When the genocide against Tutsi began in 1994, I was too young to understand what was happening. I was 4 years old. People we have known our entire lives were suddenly our enemies. Our neighbors, classmates, people we pray with were encouraged to kill us to prove their patriotism. Like other Tutsis, we were forced out of our home into hiding. My family separated into small groups, and each of us went in different directions. My father fled to the capital to hide among the crowd. My mother is handicapped, and as the eldest child, I was the only one who could walk on my own. So I went with her. My sister went with my uncle, and my brother went with my grandmother. Each of us went in different directions. My mother and I walked west of Rwanda for 3 weeks. We walked with little food or water. We walked during the night and in the rain. There were so many close calls. One day, we were walking in a large group, and they lined us up. The militia stopped us, and they lined us up to be killed. In a moment of confusion, my mother acted quickly and hid us in the bushes. From there, we watched as the militia killed everyone who was with us. More than 8 members of my family were killed during the genocide against Tutsi in 1994. My grandmother was raped and killed alongside my little brother, who was 1 year old. My sister, who was three years old at the time, was separate from my uncle, and she was saved by a Hutu neighbor who hid her in an underground well for 2 months. After the genocide, I was heartbroken and angry. How could humans do this to each other? How could the world ignore the murder of so many innocent people? At the age of 11, I realized that anger was the wrong path. I decided to learn about what happened in my country and to share my story to make sure this will never happen again. It was when I was working at the Kigali Genocide Memorial in Rwanda that I started to learn about Israel. The more I studied, the more I was drawn to the country. I learned what Israel has achieved in a short time. It gave me hope. Because in Israel, I saw a nation built by survivors, a nation that rose beyond the tragedy of the Holocaust and created greatness. In Israel, I saw the future I wanted for my country. In 2012, I was accepted to study at Texas Christian University in Texas. Go Frogs. During my freshman year, a close friend of mine who knew of my love for Israel invited me to an AIPAC event. And with the AIPAC, I connected my story and Israel's story together as one. And today, I'm an AIPAC campus activist at my school. I teach others so they can learn what I learned. This past summer, I traveled to Israel with the AIPAC Milston Family Foundation Campus Alliance Mission. Thank you. Thank you. Well, there's something important happened. We visit Yad Vashem, Israel Holocaust Memorial Museum. I felt like I was seeing the story of my life, the story of my family, the story of my country. You see, the struggle and the horror faced by the Jewish people were my struggles. Being a survivor, it means something very important. I carry my past with me, always. It's a heavy burden, but I draw my strength from it. It's a feeling that most people do not understand. But in Israel, a nation of survivors, I felt at home. In 1994, I was 4 years old, and I began my journey for survival, for acceptance, and rebirth. My name is Yannick Tona. I am a proud Rwandan. I am a survivor, and I am pro-Israel. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Please welcome AIPAC past President David Victor.
Yannick, thank you for sharing your incredible story of survival and resilience with us. We are truly honored to have you with us today and to have your involvement in our work every day. Our next guest is the man credited with helping to put an end to the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsis, ushering his people beyond the tragedy of the past to the promise of the future. He has transformed his nation, growing its economy, redeveloping its infrastructure, and reuniting his people. I had the great privilege to meet with President Paul Kagame when I traveled to Africa in 2014. I have to tell you, I was immediately struck by his strong connection to Israel's story. He has visited Israel on several occasions and hosted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last summer during the Prime Minister's historic trip to Africa. President Kagame is the first African head of state in history to address this gathering. The President will be joined in conversation today by former CNN correspondent Frank Sesno. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame.
AIPAC leaders and supporters, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you very much. It's an honor to be here with you. My message today is simple. Rwanda is without question a friend of Israel. I wanted to take a moment to tell you why. No tragedy is so great, so vast, that human ingenuity and resilience cannot give rise to a better future. The survival and renewal of our two nations testifies to this truth. The security of peoples who have once been targeted for extermination can never be exclusively physical until all ideologies which justify killing as a patriotic duty are defeated. Our world is not truly safe. Not for us, not for anyone. Together with friends like the United States, we must call for renewed global solidarity against the relentless efforts to deny genocide and trivialize the victims. Israel has the right to exist and thrive. As a full member of the international community, this is not an infringement on the rights of any other people and should not be seen as such. It makes our world more secure and peaceful. For Rwanda and many other countries in Africa, engaging productively with Israel has opened new horizons. We look forward to doing even more together, and I wish to take this moment once again to thank you.
Please welcome former CNN anchor Frank Sesno.
Well, Mr. President, welcome, and it's a great honor and privilege to be here with you and to have you as the first African president address this group.
Thank you.
Rwanda's story is so interesting, fascinating, tragic, and inspiring. And thank you for sharing some more about the story and some of these shared experiences and convictions that motivate the friendship and the relationship between Rwanda and Israel. I'd like to talk to you about that for a few minutes. You visited Israel in 2008. You celebrated the country's 60th anniversary while you were there. In comments to the late President Shimon Peres, you spoke about Israel's, and I'm quoting you here, resilience and tenacity in nation building. What are your observations about Israel's examples of statehood and nation building, and how does that inform and inspire your country's rebirth?
To begin with, Israel is a nation that has beat all odds every step of the way. And that is, to put it in a context, looking at the hostile environment, sometimes the unsympathetic international community. Israel continues to be secure, to thrive, and it has invested in its people. It has developed a knowledge-based economy. So when you look at all of this put it together, it mirrors what we are going through, have been going through in the recent past. So we think there are lessons to be learned here, and that if people are determined, focused, and it's about their survival, I think there are not going to be any limits as to how they can go to defend and develop themselves.
And so what pages from Israel's experience, then, do you take as you try to rebuild your country?
It's this single-mindedness in terms of working very hard.
Single-mindedness.
Single-mindedness about survival, about what needs to be done that the people invest in, starting with the people, and the quality of that investment in terms of building capacities that will develop in a society, as well as ensure that they have the capacity to protect themselves.
In the last few years, there have been a number of developments it's quite interesting in Israel's relationship with Africa. Prime Minister Netanyahu visited Rwanda as part of his four-nation African tour last year. The first African-Israel summit will take place in Africa later this year. In 2014, Rwanda helped block a move in the United Nations at the UN Security Council that would have granted statehood status for the Palestinians, bypassing direct negotiations with Israel when you abstained on that vote. So what have been some of the outcomes of these experiences and these encounters? And is there a chance that there will be greater understanding in Africa, continent-wide, for Israel's positions going forward?
We are happy that Israel is engaging with Africa, has come back to Africa, and Africa is responding in a good way. Previously, there has been absence of that engagement, and it has, in a way, hurt the understanding people should have about Israel and what has gone through and what can be done for many problems to be addressed relating to the situation with Israel. But this engagement has been helpful. Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the East African region. We had 6 leaders meeting and hosting the Prime Minister and talking about issues relating to our relationship and many things that can be done, including the support of many efforts Israel is undertaking. So this is a very good thing. Then there came also the vote. There had been a vote at the UN. And for us, the reason for abstaining was we thought there was, first of all, the way it was being done, the timing. We thought this was going to be prejudicial to other things that had to be addressed in terms of...
Prejudicial?
Absolutely.
In what sense?
Meaning, you see, you have other people sitting and determining what should happen without allowing the parties concerned to sit and talk and agree what the way forward should be. And our experience in Rwanda, is that you cannot simply introduce solutions to people from outside, and they work without involving the people that are concerned. So this is where we came from. This was the main reason. The way it was being done, the timing, when there should have been other discussions engaging the parties concerned to agree. Then you have many other people coming in and deciding. We thought that was the wrong way to do it, and abstaining also meant many other things. It meant we didn't agree with what was going on, but at the same time, our position has also been, it doesn't mean when you are a friend of Israel that you are an enemy of someone else. I think it's a question of using...
But that you cannot impose an agreement like this. You cannot impose a settlement like this.
It's the wrong thing to do.
Tell us about the Africa Summit and what you hope will come of the summit and what Israel and Africa will get out of that.
Many things. I think there are complementary capabilities and mutual interests here. And once people come together, say, for example, from Israel, looking at how Israel has built itself in terms of knowledge, as I said, the best economy, it is building on technological innovations. There are experiences and benefits to share here on the side of Israel, as well as African countries playing their part in many ways. If we had scientists working together, investors, investing in key areas of Africa's development. I think there is a lot that can happen between Israel and Africa, especially built on these different capabilities and the very mutual interests that are present.
Africa is a fast-growing continent now, so there are great opportunities. We heard a few moments ago former Prime Minister Tony Blair talk about the vibrancy and the innovation that Israel represents. In thinking about energy, agriculture, technology, some of the places where you're working closely with Israel now, as you look in ways to see a more integrated relationship over the next 5-10 years, where do you see that going?
I see it growing. I see it in agriculture, in energy, in information and communication technologies, in different paths. And I see these technologies driving our future economies. And already African economies have been growing. In fact, they've been growing in the absence of these key factors, whether it is energy or technology or other things which Israel has in abundance. So I think when we work together, when we support each other, this can benefit the growth of our economies across the continent.
As President of Rwanda and a friend of Israel and a visitor to the United States, let's connect the dots there. What role should the United States be playing, in your view now, in the relationship with Israel and Africa and the world, and also in the region?
Well, there is a lot that needs to happen in the relationship first between the United States and Africa, where we need to value each other as partners, and that partnership can grow. And then already the partnership between Israel and the United States is very strong. So the United States can use its enormous power it holds in many ways to bring the parties concerned in this engagement with Israel to actually come to terms with the reality that there are so complex problems to be addressed, but at the same time, when people work together and talk to each other and, in actual fact, are determined to find a solution that benefits all of them, I think that can lead to a solution. And the United States, probably, as I know, is such an only power that can give this kind of momentum to the engagement of the parties to reach an agreement. But, of course, United States will have to choose how it uses this power, indeed, to influence the parties to work together to reach an agreement that is going to work for all of them. And I think the United States has all it needs to be able to do that.
We will be listening very closely to that. Mr. President, you and your country are a great inspiration. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your perspectives on your growing relationship with Israel and the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please welcome AIPAC Managing Director of National Affairs, Elliot Brandt.
Good morning. Welcome. David Ben-Gurion once said, "All that has been accomplished in this country is the result of dreams made real by virtue of passion and vision and pioneering capacity." This next part of our program highlights some of the remarkable innovations that are born from that potent combination. But what's even more inspiring, and what I hope will resonate with everyone here, is the showcasing of a mindset of unrelenting determination to overcome all barriers and conventional thinking. On this stage, we will showcase that quintessential Israeli curiosity and the drive to defend and protect and heal and transform the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, really more about any Israeli technology, this segment is about the unbelievable spirit of the Israeli people. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AIPAC's Innovation Showcase. To discuss our first technology, please join me in welcoming to the stage Alan Dershowitz.
Hi, thank you.
Alan, everyone in this audience knows you as a brilliant attorney, an incredible professor, a passionate Zionist. Nobody knows why you're here in the Innovation Showcase.
I'm here because I'm a passionate Zionist who believes that no country in the history of the world has contributed more to life-saving technology in a mere 69 years than the nation of Israel. And I'm here because I spend so much of my life fighting against BDS and delegitimation of Israel, and I believe that there is no weapon more powerful in the fight against BDS than for Israel to develop technologies that the world cannot live without. You cannot boycott products that you can't live without.
And that's the end of our segment. Okay. In Yossi Siegel's book, Let There Be Water, he talks about the Zionist dream to overcome water scarcity, but he also talks about the consequences if we don't.
He's right. Look, let's remember that Theodor Herzl talked about the pioneers of Israel will be people who help develop water. And Yitzhak Rabin originally didn't want to be a soldier. He wanted to be a water engineer. We have a crisis in the world today. 2/3 of the world has water scarcity. This can cause disruptions, instability, destabilization. 20 million people are at risk of not having enough water to live. This poses strategic challenges to the United States. And here at home, we have droughts in California. 7 of our 8 grain states are short of water. Israel can do something to help stop that crisis.
Okay, so Alan, with that as our motivation, tell us about the technology.
Well, first of all, what do you do if there's absolutely no water? If there's no salt water, if there's no dirty water, we can clean all of those. What if there's no water at all? What you do is what this great new innovation by WaterGen does, is you literally take drinkable water out of thin air.
I would say nobody believes you and they don't know what you're talking about, and this sounds like science fiction.
Well, that's what Israel does. It turns science fiction into life-saving reality. That's the story of Israel.
Okay, so tell us what it does.
Well, this is amazing. It's like an enormous air conditioner, but much more efficient and much less expensive. It pulls water out of the air. It purifies the water. It makes it smaller and cheaper. It uses a revolutionary plastic heat exchanger and a new purification method. And there are little tiny home units, and the home unit can produce between 15 or 20 liters a day of drinkable water at a fraction of what bottled water costs. And bottled water, of course, hurts the environment by using bottles. This doesn't use bottles. This is a win-win for everybody.
So, Alan, in addition to that, I'm guessing you've thought, or the company's thought, about other ways to deploy this technology.
Well, this is an amazing technology. It will help humanitarian disasters all over the world. Imagine if this technology were available in Haiti when they had their disaster. Or in New Orleans, right here at home. Flint, Michigan was without drinkable water for a long period of time. And this technology could have given water to the people of Flint and the people of New Orleans. It can also have military uses. It can be put in the back of Humvees and use the heat of the Humvees to generate water from the air. It can bring water to remote locations. You know, it's like there's rain, but usually you have to wait for the rain. This technology pulls the rain out of the air and brings it to a machine and brings it to your lips to help you have water.
All right, Alan, we got a lot riding on this next part.
Oh, yeah.
Should we try this? Ladies and gentlemen, this is water brought forth from the air in this room. I hope you all showered.
Here it comes. You see it? You see it? Okay. L'chaim.
Time. Please let this work.
It's delicious. It's really
Ladies and
good.
gentlemen, what should not be surprising, it tastes like water. And what's remarkable about this is not the two of us on stage drinking water. It's imagining who else could be, who they are, and where they are, and why they're suffering from such thirst, and the fact that this technology could literally save their lives.
Well, you know, Israel innovation for the last 69 years has produced products the world can't live without. Drip agriculture, so many other products. You know, we learn from the Talmud that he who saves a single human life, it is as if they saved the whole world. But it's better to save the whole world. And Israel can do that through its water technology and this great innovation. I'm so proud to have brought it to your attention. Let's see Israel go forward for the next 69 years and save even more and more lives and become a light unto the nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Dershowitz.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, no, we're going right on. This next segment isn't about any particular device. In fact, it's not about technology at all. In fact, it sounds like the beginning of a joke. The graduate of the IDF's 8200 tech unit and an Israeli Arab entrepreneur from Nazareth walk into, except in this case, not a bar. In this case, possibly the future of Israel. You should know we initially loved this segment because it was about cooperation and it was about coexistence, but it turns out this story is about much, much more. This is a story about the need and the opportunity to keep Israel at the very forefront of innovation and, as a result, secure her future and the prosperity of her people. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming from Hybrid Accelerator, Fadi Swidan and Eitan Sella.
Thank you very much.
Fadi.
Thank you.
Eitan.
Hi, Elliot.
Good morning. All right, gentlemen, we're Russian. Tell us about what are we trying to solve here?
So basically, we're keeping Israel on the map as the innovator it's known for. Everybody knows of Israel as a startup nation, and as long as it is this way, it's relevant to the world, just like we just saw. But there's a risk it's not going to stay this way forever. Because today in Israel, the startup nation is sort of an all-boys club, where only certain communities are part of, and we've built something. But in order to keep us ahead of the curve and keep Israel on the map, we have to find a solution to keep everyone involved.
And my understanding is we've got to find a way to deepen and broaden the talent pool.
Exactly.
And Fadi, I'm guessing you have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, because of that, the Ministry of Economy at the end confirmed the Hybrid Acceleration Program with the mission to transform and stimulate the Arab-Israeli economy by encouraging tech initiatives and startups. We name it hybrid because we are working in a hybrid model to be in Nazareth and Tel Aviv at the same time, and brand it like to any startup that have at least one Arab co-founder to make this engagement real and active.
Okay, but there have to be barriers to this entry.
Well, as you know, we have a lot of problems there, and that makes it much more complicated and challenging. We have barriers at the finance level, at the social level, and at the end there is the differences in the profile of the Arab entrepreneur and the Jewish one.
And you mentioned the social?
The social, it's that we have to change some of our prejudgments at the Arab community, like the failure stigma.
I'm sorry, the failure of stigma?
Yeah.
The stigma of failure.
Exactly.
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay. And Eitan, other issues?
So counterintuitively, our main target audience are not Arab entrepreneurs. It's actually the industry. So as we mentioned earlier, the startup nation is mostly centered in Tel Aviv. And I think this is a story a lot of countries face with the centralization of its growth engines. And basically, by doing outreach, we build exceptional entrepreneurs from all over Israel. And here's a message that we want to bring here. And I think this is the most important part of what we have to say here today. We're not doing anyone a favor except to the industry of Israel. We've learned in the past few years that we've done this that humility and outreach are actually very good for business because they allow us at Hybrid the patience to take the long walk with our entrepreneur and build good businesses from all over Israel.
Okay, so great. We've got Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews working together. Is anyone investing in this idea? Have you got any results yet?
Yeah. Till now, we launched something like 70 startups.
70?
Yeah. 30 of them already have grants from the chief scientist of Israel and investments from VCs and angels.
Unbelievable. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. Give us your best success story.
So I want to speak about a specific company that has an incredible story, both in terms of its technology and product, but also team. So NIMD, Non-Invasive Medical Device, is the company that raised its first round already of investment. And it's a company that's based in Jerusalem and is building a medical device for cancer treatment through thermal ablation. And I want to quote the founders for a second, Anan and Butros. What they always say is that they are founders and employees of the three religions that are holy to Jerusalem, and together they're fighting one common enemy, cancer.
That's unbelievable. And it's a story that could only happen in Israel.
I think so, too.
In just these last few seconds that I have remaining, look 10, 20 years down the road and just tell us what success is.
Me?
You.
Okay. So I think maybe ironically, our first job is, I guess, to put ourselves out of job, for this not to be special. And if we manage to do this in the next few years, Mobileye is only the beginning.
Unbelievable. Fadi?
Well, I may say it like that. 2,000 years ago, Nazareth brought to the world maybe one of the most important miracles with the Annunciation. Today, I believe that the next miracle to the high-tech industry, to Israel and the worldwide, will be made in Nazareth as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fadi Svidan and Eitan Sela.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our next innovation is an amazing technology made by one of Israel's top security technology experts, and it is keeping people safe in some of the largest venues in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Kyler Intelligence Systems, Lisa Dolev. Lisa, we have an extraordinary technology to discuss, but before we do, I just have to ask your backstory.
Around the year 2000, I had been working with the Ministry of Defense after spending many years in the Air Force. And around that time, there were an enormous amount of terror attacks that were being prevented from coming into the country. Inevitably, about one or two of them would be getting through. And so I was subsequently tasked with laying out certain types of technologies that would help fight this or counter this. And at the same time, I was finishing my PhD, and I had 2 kids I was raising. So that's my story.
Wow. Our backgrounds are actually very similar. I was in the math club. So, okay, but at some point, you leave government, you leave the military, you join the private sector, something happens.
Yeah. Our family moved to the Bay Area around 2004. During that period, the Madrid bombings had happened. And that really rattled me as to how places with masses of people coming in are very vulnerable. So I just basically followed something that my father had taught me very early on in life. When there's something that's really painful to you, you either kvetch about it You be quiet about it, or you stand up and you do something about it.
You wouldn't be here if you were a kvetcher.
Right, I wouldn't be if I was a kvetcher, right?
So what'd you do?
So I set out to create a technology that would be able to handle masses of people and check what's coming in to that venue with bombs and explosives.
You sit down.
And that can basically draw a pencil drawing for a solution, just as I'd been trained to do. That's what I've been trained to do.
Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, Lisa, but are we looking at the drawing you sketched?
Yep,
that's some doodle.
That's the sketch.
And so what does this become?
Well, this becomes an automated self-service security device that takes people's tickets and looks for explosives and gets 5 people through at the same time.
Okay, so I have to ask, how do you go from that sketch pad to that full-blown company?
Well, it was really never my intention to open a company. I had taken the drawings and the specifications and handed it over to one of my contacts in the US government. But it was just too much bureaucracy, red tape, so I just decided I'll do it myself.
Okay, here's the freaky part. I want to go back to the technology. Tell us how this works.
Okay, so this is, like I said, an automated self-service security system. People open a door, they place their bag inside, and it looks for explosives and guns and so forth, and other things that you shouldn't be bringing in. And it combines many different types of sensors. So imaging sensors, a cousin of what you might be familiar with in X-ray, or material distinguishing sensors, radiation sensors, and many others, and puts them together.
Okay, but so, all right, so you've got more sensors and different sensors, but there's more to it than that.
Absolutely. There's 2 really big main differentiators for this. The first one is that this is really an entire entry experience solution, which goes to treating our guests really very nicely.
Because I know that's how we feel when we go to the airport. We feel like guests.
Guests, yes, absolutely guests. When you are entering into a venue, you are a guest. And it's extremely important how we treat our citizens and our guests. Because the moment that terrorists can force us to change the way that we believe in, to change our way of life, they absolutely win. And that's forbidden.
Okay. What's part 2?
Part 2 is a technology, and this is a very cool aspect of it. It's how these machines basically evolve and become smarter based on information that they learn from each other.
Okay, so I want to understand. You have network in Mumbai and one in Manhattan and one in London, and they are all talking to each other and learning from each other and evolving.
Yes. So in essence, what happens is that really every venue and every country is very specialized, although they have some commonalities. So for instance, we need to distinguish in India between pickles and problematic materials, or in the United States between peanut butter and explosive, or a liquid explosive and apple juice, or most recently, what's inside of a battery in a laptop. So these machines reach out and they ask, who's similar to me in my content and in my problems? They combine their data, they learn from each other, they evolve their intelligence, and then send it back out.
What's this called?
Well, this is our social network of machines. And this is what we call our Kynet technology.
Yes. I don't know if everyone heard you. You said Kynet, which sounds surprisingly like something else. I think it was called Skynet.
I get that a lot, and it's not a Terminator Skynet. I can promise you and I assure you that this technology is for the benefit of mankind.
Yeah, that's what they said in the movie, too. Okay.
Really?
So just very quickly, uses beyond security?
Yes. So in this evolving world of robotics and intelligent machines, this technology can be applied to any place that needs to make a smart decision. And that can be in agriculture, like fruit picking and fruit sorting machines, or gas and oil, fracking robots.
You're being used where right now?
So our current technology right now, most notably in the United States, is with Levi's Stadium, the San Francisco 49ers.
Go Niners.
And really very special to us was this past year. We had the great honor of standing at the front of the Olympic Village, protecting the athletes. And this was very special. This was the first year that finally the Olympic Committee had honored the memory of our athletes from 72.
Lisa, I don't think it is lost on anyone in this audience that at the 1972 Olympics in Munich, the world watched as Israeli athletes were murdered. And 44 years later, it was Israeli technology protecting every man, woman, and child at the Rio Olympics. On behalf of everyone here, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Lisa Dolev. Thank you. Okay, our final innovation today is an amazing technology that will revolutionize life for people with disabilities. Let's welcome to the stage, from Sesame Enable, Oded Ben-Dov. Welcome, Oded.
Thank you.
Let's jump right in. What's the Sesame phone?
So Sesame is the world's first touch-free technology for smartphones and tablets. It enables control of the device for people who are paralyzed, who have no use of their hands. Our users can now reconnect with their loved ones, can go on Facebook and socialize, and we've even had children play Angry Birds and Candy Crush for the first time in their lives.
Where's this idea come from?
So my background is very technological. I went on TV, Israeli TV, to demonstrate a game we developed that was controlled using head gestures. And I got a phone call the very next day, and the guy said, "Hi, I can't use my hands or legs. Could you make me a smartphone I could use?"
And who's this?
This was Giora Livne. He was released a lieutenant colonel from the Israeli Navy. One unfortunate Friday, he fell off a ladder and hit his back, became paralyzed ever since. We set out to meet, and he lives down the block from my parents. You get that a lot in Israel. It's a very compact country.
Okay, so from that meeting, the Sesame phone is born.
Correct. So we each put in some money. We brought in our third partner, Vlad Ostrovsky, and within a couple of months, we had a working prototype. We realized we were onto something.
Okay, and you have to start scaling it up.
Yeah, so we've got the help of giants. Verizon gave us $1 million to pursue this dream. Michael Bloomberg himself gave us another award. And just last year, Google partnered up with Beit Easy Shapiro in Israel to distribute the technology to anyone who needs it.
That's unbelievable. So right now, it's only in Israel?
Not at all. So we have users from all over the world, here in the States, South America, Europe. My personal favorite, a user from Saudi Arabia. So tell that to the guys protesting outside.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard that this technology is being used in the United States, and as a result, Oded wanted to make sure that we brought somebody from the United States who's using it. So please help me in joining. Please join me in welcoming from Washington State, Gary Fisher, Eileen Fisher, and Dandy. Fishers, welcome.
Thank you.
Gary, I want to just start with you. Just tell us, how long have you had the phone? How's it been going?
I've had it for about a year, and it's been amazing. I'm now able to talk to my friends and family, which I wasn't able to before.
Okay, so, and Eileen, I want to bring you into this as well. Just these last few years, tell us what it's been like.
Well, it's been a change for Gary from being a full-time employed truck driver with a company for over 20 years and out in the public and very social.
No, I'm not sure everyone could hear you just now. Will you say that again?
Yeah, Gary was a truck driver for over 20 years, so was out in the public dealing with people on a daily basis.
That'll take care of that.
And over the past few years, his life's changed from that to losing the ability to work, losing the ability to drive, eventually losing everything from the neck down. So his world became very narrow. He had his dog, his chair, and his television all day while I was at work.
Okay, so every day is in a chair in front of the TV. At some point, something happens, something changes.
Right. We, by luck, found a paralysis support group, and they said paralysis is paralysis. It's not always just a spinal cord injury. So we started going and went to a spinal cord seminar where we saw a video about the Sesame Enable phone. We went home and we ordered one.
Okay. Look, with that, show us all how it works.
Yeah, so I'll let Gary demonstrate. I'll be explaining what he's doing. To open up the device in first place, you'll say Open Sesame. That's the magic keyword. Now we'll shut off his microphone so it won't interfere. Let's try it out.
Open Sesame. Open Sesame.
It's a little loud.
Okay. It's probably the acoustic. Let's dive right in. So the camera opens up, searches for his face. This could be anyone. He doesn't know Gary up front. And once it locks onto his face, he has this mouse cursor that's following his head movements. Through his head movements, Gary can control the entire device, just like any other user. Yeah. Phone. I'm sorry, the stage is a bit shaky.
And so while we're watching this,
Gary might be a little nervous.
There you go.
There we go.
We're all a bit nervous up here. So it could go on the phone, call his friends and family. They're all here. So if you can go back home. Great. With this mouse cursor, you can do really anything. You just stay in one place on a less shaky stage.
Yes.
There you go. You stay in place, you get a chance to select a tap or a swipe. You can access the entire device through this. Gary will open an email he got from his sister.
Ladies and gentlemen, from this stage, we have shown how Israeli innovation brings one man closer to the world, brings two people together, brings water to a village, and literally protects the Olympic Village itself. So for all this and more, what is needed more in this world is more Israeli innovation, more Israeli entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and enjoy the policy conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our morning program. For your safety and the safety of those around you, please follow the guidance of the event staff to your designated exit.